Hello, welcome to Jewish Museum Milwaukee. This is our Museum Moment program, and today we are joined by Samantha Abramson, the executive director of the Holocaust Education Resource Center. I've got my education in front of my, it's all a jumble. We are talking today, it's November 2nd, and a week from today is November 9th. November 9th is Kristallnacht. And today we felt like it was a great opportunity to explore Kristallnacht, which happened November 9th, 1938, explore the impact, how it shifted the course of Holocaust history, and then to talk about kind of some of the very personal stories, but also how HERC continues to commemorate this event. So, Samantha, do you want to start by opening up, like, what is Kristallnacht, what is its meaning, and how do you kind of use it in terms of Holocaust education?
Absolutely. Thanks, Ellie. So Kristallnacht literally translates into the night of broken glass. And when we're talking about broken glass, that's in reference to the glass windows of Jewish shop owners, of homes owned by Jews, because Kristallnacht at its core was a pogrom. It was a 2-day pogrom. It started November 9th, went on next day on November 10th. It was a pogrom against Jews in Germany. And I should say it's not just Germany proper. By this point in 1938, we're also talking about Austria, which the Nazis are in control of, and the Sudetenland, which the Nazis have as well. So it's all three of those regions.
And was there, because it's like 2 days of mass violence, thousands of synagogues are burnt or destroyed. People are beaten. Shops are the windows are busted. But was there some sort of kind of unifying rallying cry that led to this?
So, of course, as you know, there had been a lot of hate against the Jews in Germany, which had started, for years. We had the Nuremberg laws, we had lots of discriminatory laws against Jews, and Jews were excluded from very many parts of public life. Joseph Goebbels, who was the Minister of Enlightenment and Propaganda, a great title.
Great title.
His job was to really inspire the masses in Germany to really turn the public against enemies like the Jews. And there was an opportunity that presented itself on November 7th of 1938, so just a few days before Kristallnacht. A Jewish teenager named Herschel Greenspan, he was only 17 years old. He was reacting to discriminatory laws that were impacting his family. He assassinated a German diplomat. And when that happened,
and this was in France, right?
This was in France. It was taking place. It was a Polish Jewish teenager who assassinated a German official in France.
And we will say it's a fairly low-level German official.
Very low level. But the Nazis turned this into this huge tragedy of an event. Hitler went to the funeral for this person, and Joseph Goebbels started to really use this as an opportunity to incite violence, to tell German citizens, hey, look what the Jews did. Now we need to retaliate, and that became the impetus for Kristallnacht.
So this really, in some ways, was kind of a major turning point in kind of Nazi policy to this point, at least in my understanding. Prior to this, there'd been all of these kinds of legislative, legal, ways in which Jewish rights were limited, but you didn't see violence on mass scales. And then Kristallnacht kind of turns that tide.
Correct. This is the first time we see mass violence against Jews, and it's perpetrated primarily by members of the SA and Hitler Youth, which is surprising in a lot of ways to think about how teenagers and young people played a very pivotal role in the destruction that happens on Kristallnacht. And they're the ones who really break into the storefronts of the Jewish shops, who go into the homes. But they're not the only ones who are involved in what unfolds on Kristallnacht, because this goes on for 2 days. It starts in the evening of November 9th, but it carries over into the next day, into broad daylight. So it becomes a very public event that many different people are working with.
You have this picture here.
I do.
And just as we're looking at it, what are we looking at here?
Yeah.
And what is this?
Yeah. So, I'm going to ask you, Ellie, what do you see in this picture?
I see a bunch of people walking. I see bicycles that have been cordoned to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a deportation? Is this because everyone's men? It's all men in
Yeah,
the lineup.
exactly. So we talked about the destruction to synagogues and property during Kristallnacht, and over 200 synagogues were destroyed during Kristallnacht, and over 7,000 Jewish businesses were destroyed. Hundreds of people were also killed, either during Kristallnacht or in the weeks that followed. And the other piece, 30,000 Jewish men were rounded up and taken to concentration camps. It is the first time that the Jews are rounded up and deported to camps simply because they're Jewish. So this is a big precursor for what we know is going to happen next. These men are all destined for Dachau, the camp Sachsenhausen, or Buchenwald. Those are the three camps that these men end up in. Some of them are later released and returned to their families. Of course, later on, they'll be rounded up again. But what we're looking, I chose this photo because it's daytime. And as you can see, we have a steady stream of Jewish men being paraded to the transport for concentration camp. And on the left, you pointed out the bicycles, and if you look, you'll see children there. I see a father holding a child. I see a little girl sort of facing the front. This is all happening in broad daylight for the public to see. And as you can see, they're not really protesting.
No, I mean, you've got these two women overlooking on the embankment up above. Yeah, no, I think that is well taken and super challenging. I think there is this thing where people are like, well, no one knew what was happening. I mean, this is incredibly public.
It's incredibly public, and the media, the worldwide media, also covered this heavily. I think Kristallnacht was in the Time magazine. Like this was something that the world saw, and Germans saw.
We actually have a couple of stories, local stories of people who were deported in this roundup. And both of our stories end up with the people being let go and being able to escape. So these are happier endings, but both the Harry Hoffman family and Edie Schaefer's father were rounded up and deported in this time. And so it's, one of these things that have very, very close connections in Milwaukee. And one of our commenters is saying people knew as the windows were smashed, people knew. I want to go to your next picture because I find this is such an interesting story. So hold on one second while I get that queued up. There we go. So tell us about this.
So this man is named Officer Trock, and he resided in Felsberg, Germany. He was an officer on the night of Kristallnacht. So law enforcement was actually ordered by law enforcement, and also fire brigades were ordered by the Nazis not to intervene on the night of Kristallnacht. They were only to intervene to save property or people who were not Jewish. So if you had a synagogue that was on fire and it spread to a building nearby that wasn't Jewish, they put that fire out, but they wouldn't put the synagogue fire out. So Officer Trock finds himself wandering the streets on the night of Kristallnacht, watching the chaos ensue. And which
has to be a little bit of a challenge, maybe if you're a kind of in your normal police officing.
You're in your uniform, you don't quite know what to do. And it's also, a lot of these are rural communities. Not all of this took place in Berlin or Vienna. So it's, I think it's rural. It's probably very dark outside.
You probably know everybody.
And you might not like what they're doing. It's a really challenging situation. And he was instructed not to intervene, but he came across this mob of SA and Hitler Youth completely tormenting this Jewish family. And they were being pushed out of their home. Their home was being destroyed. So Officer Trock actually decided to step in and act as a barrier between the mob and the Jewish family. And he stayed with that family the rest of the night, protecting them. He did that, against Nazi orders. And, for this reason, we look at his story very positively. The mob who was surrounding the family shouted at him, "Get with the times." So he knew these people, and they were very angry with him for what he did. But I like to show this story because we talk about how overall people did follow orders and did allow things to happen, but this is a great example of someone who didn't do that. On the flip side, and I don't have a photo of this person, but there's another police officer. His name was Otto Lorenz, and he was a local officer in Frankenberg, Germany, who on the night of Kristallnacht had a Jewish inmate at the local jail. He had been just monitoring the local jail. That was his job that night. And there was a Jewish inmate there who happened to be a school teacher. And a mob came to the prison and wanted the Jewish man handed over. And Officer Lawrence did that. He handed this Jewish person over to the mob, and he was very violently beaten, very, very much injured. And then he was sent to a concentration camp, and he died in the concentration camp from those injuries. So Officer Lawrence was actually later in 1952, he was given a slap on the wrist, and he had to serve time in prison for his role in this man's death.
Seen as being complicit in this.
Yes.
Oh, wow. It is. I think one of the things I take from both of these stories is this, that within all of us we have the potential to do good or evil. And it's, which of those callings are we really listening to? How are we responding? Even in these terrible and tumultuous times, that there are all sorts of different ways of responding.
Yeah. And everybody has a role to play, right? Like we talk about how Hitler Youth and the SA, yes, they were the ones who primarily smashed the windows, but then everyday citizens walked into those windows and stole property and walked off with it. So everybody has a role to play here, and citizens chose what roles those were going to be.
As we're kind of wrapping up, every year, HERC, Holocaust Education Resource Center, does a commemoration for Kristallnacht. And this year is a little bit of a transitional year. Do you want to kind of describe what's new and different and what people can look forward to?
Sure. Yeah. So, we talked about it even here. We recognize the tremendous power of young people to shape the world they're living in. So we're focusing really heavily this year on responses we've received from students who've worked with HERC's educational programming that we offer, our new Holocaust education map. And we'll be showcasing some of the student responses to questions like, what is anti-Semitism? And what do I do to fight hate today? And we'll also have an opportunity to see pledges made by local interfaith leaders to also help stamp out hate. And it should be a really engaging mini program, very short, airing on Facebook Live next Tuesday, November 9th at 10 a.m.
Tuesday, November 9th, 10 a.m., Facebook Live. We'll probably stream it as well. We'll share it, but feel free to follow on HERC's website and Facebook page, which is linked in this Facebook as well. Thank you so much, Samantha. It is always great to hear from you. And please keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Ellie. Thanks for having me.
Thank you to our supporter, Robin Cohen, who makes these possible. And if the JMM is open to the public, we hope you'll drop by and visit us. Thanks and have a great day.